What's up, everybody? Super excited to be releasing my first ever viewer-based Q&A. And I just want to say thanks to YouTube for spontaneously unlocking the community tab for me. That was something that I thought you unlocked at 1,000 subscribers, but I guess not. And the community tab is a way where you can just basically post messages, photos, polls, and stuff like that directly to your subscribers. So thank you to YouTube for unlocking that for me. And of course, thank you to those who commented the questions that I'm going to be answering today. You made this video possible, and I think this is going to be a cool opportunity because I'm finally getting to directly interact with my viewers and questions and thoughts that they've been entertaining, you know. And I just want to say, I've read all the questions that have been given, but that's the extent of it. I haven't prefabricated an answer that I'm going to be giving to each of these questions. So it's going to be completely raw, completely me thinking in the moment, you know. So some questions might be a little lengthy because it's going to take me a moment to really articulate a response that I feel is genuine. So with that, thank you guys again, and let's get to answering some questions. Alright, so our first question here is from the Spiritual Witch, who's actually got a YouTube channel, which you can go check out. I'll leave the link to her channel in the description. The Spiritual Witch asks, what is your take on reaching enlightenment through psychedelics versus using means such as meditation? Good question. That's a huge debate area for some people. So what I know things like psychedelics and meditation to be is sort of just, I want to say vehicles, but that implies that they're going somewhere. And we could argue that they are, but really I see it put simply that meditation puts one in a meditative state, and psychedelics puts one in a psychedelic state. And it's not that meditation leads you to enlightenment and that psychedelics lead you to enlightenment. It's more so that in this meditative state or in this psychedelic state, one realizes something or many things and goes through what they may consider to be enlightenment or awakening. And if it happens to them in the meditative state, they would say that meditation is a route to enlightenment. But to me, it more so seems that they were just in a state of meditation when this realization happened. This state of meditation put them in a space that allowed this realization to be possible. And the same goes for psychedelics. It's not like psychedelics are causing enlightenment or psychedelics are carrying you to enlightenment. It's more so that the individual finds themselves on psychedelics realizing these very profound things. And a lot of people believe, you know, people that believe meditation is the way to enlightenment would say you shouldn't use psychedelics to get enlightened, and you can't. And people that use psychedelics to get enlightened, this is kind of interesting. I've seen, they say meditation does get you to enlightenment, but psychedelics get you to enlightenment quicker. And that brings up a lot of debate as well. The idea that psychedelics are a sped up approach to what we call enlightenment. I'm completely open on both ends. I don't think one is better than the other. I think what it really comes down to is karma. And, you know, when I say the individual finds themselves awakening on psychedelics or in meditation, that is their karma. They awaken through psychedelics, or they awaken through meditation, and it's not like your ego is picking meditation or psychedelics as the vehicle and then analyzing whether this one is better than that one. No, I think it more comes down to karma. In what was it that was meant to get you to enlightenment? And there's plenty of other things besides meditation and psychedelics that you could say got you to enlightenment, different interests, sports, relationships, just different activities and hobbies that people find that space of oneness and complete openness and acceptance in, which are the typical things that you describe as enlightenment. But yeah, I think on an egoic level, what it comes down to is what you think is better off for you, what you think works better for you. And you can't just, as Terence McKenna would put it, frankly, you can't pussyfoot around with these two methods. You need to go all in to get a good look at what that method has to offer. And what I'm saying is that to really know whether or not psychedelics are a better vehicle to reaching enlightenment for you or not, you need to take a high dose of psychedelics so that you are fully encapsulated in a psychedelic experience. And the same goes for meditation. You can't just convince yourself you're looking at your thoughts and you're in a meditative state and then say, yeah, this works good, or no, that doesn't work really well. You need to actually be in a meditative state and experience meditative states more than once, honestly, and the same goes with psychedelics, to get a good look at what these methods or vehicles are offering you in particular, and what they're doing for you or to you in particular. So yeah, on an egoic level, it comes down to preference and opinion, but how I personally feel about it is that it's more so a karmic, I don't want to say decision, but it's just the unfolding of things, that you're gonna be doing this, or you're gonna be here when you reach enlightenment. And that was your vehicle, that was your method, It's not like it specifically got you there. So that's really it that I got to analyze on that question. I hope that answered your question. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Thank you. All right, so for our second question, Too Existential asks, how do you feel about using plant medicines for general health? So I'll admit, when I read this one, I did put a little bit of thought into it, and I thought about how, like, are you talking using psychedelics to, like, as a nutritional diet? Are you talking about psychedelics as a form of mental health? You know what I mean? Because when you say general health, that seems pretty broad, and I guess the way I would break that down is, I don't know enough on the nutritional benefits of psychedelics, and considering that they're psychoactive drugs, and I mean, maybe if very small doses offered these nutritional values, I don't think psychoactive drugs would be a good form of just like nutrition, or like something you're using as a supplement. But when you get into the realms of, and that's more like physical supplement type stuff, I don't know what psychedelics do in that realm. But when we get into the realm of mental health and that area of general health, I think there's a lot to talk about. I think that these plant medicines can be used in various amounts of ways to better one's mental health. And I feel like this also may be, simply put, something that's not for everybody. Just like Xanax doesn't work for everybody, or not everybody likes cannabis. Not everybody is going to benefit or even like the effects that plant medicines have on them for the sorts of things they're trying to treat, and in this case, mental health. But other people, including myself, have seen incredible things happen revolved around just outlook of life and personality, and self-esteem and purpose and meaning and all of that. Psychedelics have drastically altered that for me, and maybe in some circumstances it seemed negative, but mainly all around, what they've seemed to do to my mental health is allow me to hear and consume more perspectives, allow me to be open to more criteria and ways of thinking, and like I said, this could not be good or not be advised for certain people, for certain individuals, but there definitely is that crowd of people who I think will incredibly benefit from using plant medicines as a form of, I think, mental health. And like I said, I don't know what they would do physically, but yeah, as far as mental health goes, I think there's definitely huge potential in what they can do. And honestly, I don't know how to really put it down, like pin it down what exactly they're doing that's benefiting us. But speaking from my own personal perspective on how these plant medicines better my mental health, like I said, I feel like I already touched on that, but I just want to make sure I'm articulating it as best as I can. Yeah, I don't feel like I can, or even have the authority to pin down what it is that these things do that's beneficial. I feel like I can only say that it's these things are going to be extraordinarily beneficial to certain individuals, and I don't know how to clarify it beyond that. I just, once again, it goes back into that, my thoughts of karma, and how where you are at the time that you get involved with psychedelics is going to make out what they do for you and how good or bad they are for you. And I feel like dose is an important thing to consider in this too, because all the studies on what microdosing psychedelics does on a day-to-day basis for individuals compared to what these high doses are doing to people, and what those differing benefits would be in those two ranges of doses. I think that's definitely part of what's going on when we talk about these things being used for our mental health, But yeah, I feel like that's really it on how I can articulate that question. I personally feel like there's huge potential for these plant medicines to be used in, I assume, what you would call general health. But yeah, I think it's slightly arbitrary, and can't think of the word. It depends. But yeah, that's it for that question, and thank you to Existential for commenting. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, so next up is Kaleidoscope Eyes, who's got a YouTube channel, and she documents her psychedelic experiences and things she learns throughout that. You can go check her out. I'll link her in the description. She asks, thoughts on mushroom intelligence? So, mushrooms as a whole, or fungus as a whole, I'm sure you're talking about psychedelic mushrooms, of course. But let me just say first off, fungus as a whole, the fungi kingdom, portrays incredible feats of intelligence that differ it than plant life or animal life and stuff like that. The fungi world is very unique, very creative, and like I said in my main mycology video a little while back, they're like a beautiful metaphor, a beautiful example of life and how we are, how we live our lives. But to talk about psychedelic mushroom intelligence, which, like I said, I'm sure is what you're referring to here, I haven't taken high doses of mushrooms. I have had mushroom experiences, but nothing really comparable to experiences I've had on LSD or DMT, at least to the level of intensity. I've definitely had visual hallucinations on mushrooms. I've had interesting concepts and ways of thinking while on the mushrooms. You know, just your typical psychedelic stimulation, because I've really only taken low doses of mushrooms. But what I guess what I can relate to is that psilocybin, or more properly, psilocin, which is what psilocybin is converted to in the stomach. Psilocin, I'm pretty sure, molecularly is 4-hydroxydimethyltryptamine. And NN-DMT I have plenty of experience taking. And I have witnessed what I would call profound intelligence in this DMT realm. So I guess I can say that what you're finding yourself in on high doses of psilocybin, 4-hydroxy-DMT, is probably fueled and coming from really that same, whatever DMT is. And I can say wholeheartedly, I think DMT yields a wisdom, an intelligence, a sentience, an awareness, of different patterns of thinking, and just portrays things about you yourself and this world, and everything, portrays it to you in a way that you wouldn't have comprised in a million years, and I think of what Terrence says, me plus nothing equals nothing. It was something like that. And then he says, me plus psilocybin equals this new idea. And it was his way of saying that he didn't make this shit up. He didn't make up this profound thing that he came to. And you can argue that because he was on this drug, the way he was thinking and whatnot. But what he's saying is that it was only when he took these mushrooms that he was delivered this insane message, this insane knowledge, you know what I mean? And it's as if, I can completely relate to this, that the mushrooms itself, the DMT itself, in my case, is giving you this knowledge. telling it to you, or you're understanding it. It's not, maybe it's not like it's talking directly to you, but it's knowledge that is present, and you're understanding it in a way that you've never understood things before. And strangely enough, that way of understanding things is incredibly familiar, at least in my experience. And we're talking specifically about DMT here because that's the only thing I can really relate to mushroom intelligence, you know. But yeah, I think there's definitely something going on there that we're not talking about, and we haven't recorded in like mainstream science, mainstream psychology. We're kind of starting to. We're scratching at the surface of articulating what these things may be doing to us. But no, as far as the actual experience of it goes, and being in contact with that, what I would completely call intelligence, there's something weird going on. There's something weird going on that is breaking the laws and the boundaries that we think are completely fixated and real. It defies our ways of thinking and knowing right now. It completely blows that out of the waters. So I can't tell you what this intelligence is, but me personally, I'll raise my hand when somebody asks, are psychedelics intelligent? You know, are mushrooms intelligent? Is DMT, LSD intelligent? I completely believe so. So yeah, I think that's it for that question. Thank you, Kaleidoscope Eyes. You make some really cool videos. And if you ever get to a spot where you'd want to collab, I would be completely down. And I feel like we'd have some interesting conversation. So thank you for commenting. All right, so Antonio Vergalito, sorry if I mispronounced your name, he asks, and this is a little bit of a lengthy question, but that's going to give me a lot to work with. He asks, do you think psychedelics are inherently spiritual? And I think I actually made a video exactly worded like that a while back, which is pretty funny. But he says, example, 2 people who never took shrooms do so. Person A has done some research, maybe watched some videos online on spirituality, psychedelics. Person B has no idea about this spiritual side of the psychedelic and goes into the experience without any knowledge of what entities are, what a breakthrough is, etc. Person A has done some research on the subject and therefore kind of knows what to expect. Person B, not at all. Do you think person B is likely to have a spiritual experience despite not knowing all the terms like ego death, spiritual awakening, entities, etc.? Awesome question, dude. Awesome question. This is something I've talked about in many videos, at least a few. Give me a moment to think about that.
Are you doing them all in order?
Mm-hmm. It's a really good question, man. Like, I don't even really know where to start. But I can say that I myself have wondered if I wasn't involved with, you know, Ram Dass and Terrence McKenna and Alan Watts and all this Buddhism and Hinduism and Taoism and Zen and, you know, the whole 9 yards. If I wasn't doing that, if I wasn't all about that stuff, or at least wasn't getting into that when I used psychedelics, would I even think psychedelics are spiritual? Would I even have had the experiences I had? But I'm somebody who, seemingly, you know, looking back on it, beyond my control, I was somebody that involved myself with all that stuff and then took the psychedelic. So I couldn't really help but having that mental background going into it, you know. And it's kind of hard to imagine what somebody who doesn't know any sort of the spirituality stuff about psychedelics, it's hard to imagine what they would make of those experiences that I'm looking back on right now, you know. I think with what psychedelics do innately, the way they, just the experience they create, it creates a sort of ecstasy in the individual. It creates a sort of, like, even if you're looking at it as just a crazy high and, you know, you're thinking that while it's happening, there's this sort of, like, you know, awesomeness, craziness, weirdness about the experience in general. The way it makes the world look, the way your body feels, the way thoughts are moving, you know, the whole idea of the psychedelic experience, the way that is in essence, I feel like is usually a catalyst for some sort of contemplation, reflection, maybe even just criticism. Even if it's coming from an egoic way, they're gonna make fun of, they may make fun of something very profound, you know, about how, like, they have to act like this person, or how why do all these politics act like they have all this control and stuff, you know. They might not even realize it, but they're being spun through levels of contemplation and levels of reflection. And I feel like that's just kind of like built into how psychedelics affect human beings. They are catalysts for thought. They make you think. They make you wonder. They put you in awe. You don't even have to be thinking, you know. I don't know if they're inherently spiritual. I don't know. I think everything is inherently spiritual. Everything is, in essence, spirit. What I would define to be spirituality. But to answer your question directly, I feel like there is definitely potential that the individual that doesn't know anything about the spirituality and stuff, which honestly I would say and kind of argue is hard to come across. I mean, unless you're going to some uncultured individual or community, most people these days at least have heard of spirituality and how psychedelics made hippies act and think and stuff, and everybody is influenced, not similarly, but we're all working with the same shit here, you know what I mean? We're all in the same world, and it's going to be hard to come across somebody who hasn't heard of the fact that this drug that they're about to take could potentially open their mind. You know, that's usually a joke amongst the party community, you know what I mean? But I do also feel like there's just as much potential that they won't have any sort of revelation, or I would say at least not detect a revelation. They're not going to pick up on the profundity of the things they're thinking or the nature of what's happening during that experience. There's definitely a chance that that will happen, that they won't see anything profound out of it. And to talk about the individual that's heavily influenced by spirituality and ego death and has researched all that shit, which I am, you know, I am kind of like that person that researched it to the ends of time before getting involved with it. I would definitely say that alters the experience, and I would even say that may alter the experience for the negative, because you think you know what's coming. You think, oh, I've done enough research. I know what this is about. And usually, if I've gone into a psychedelic experience like that, I have been, you know, like hyper slapped with a completely ulterior realization that usually just shows me how phony I was being, you know? But yeah, being influenced by spirituality and knowing about all the, you know, watching all these trip reports and watching all these, just this research of what psychedelics are and what they've done to people and all that, you're going, even if you're not thinking about it, it's going to be sort of the gauge of the experience. It's what you know that thing to be that you're taking, you know, and thoughts that come up and the way you look at it, I think very well could be influenced by what you've heard. And it honestly seems obvious that the psychedelic experience is not going to be free of description, but is instead going to have your interpretation of it that you individually have been influenced into, you know, seeing. It's going to have that overlaid onto it, you know, wherever you are as an individual and however you're interpreting things. That's what's going to be describing and analyzing the psychedelic experience. But yeah, dude, that's a really good question. It took me a second to even think words, you know, because I've thought about that a lot, you know. If I would have thought the way I do about psychedelics, if I hadn't researched the things I did prior. But the way I look at it is, I did research those things, and then I took the psychedelic, and it seemed the way it did, and I couldn't help the influence that I was having on myself in that experience, you know what I mean? It was meant for me to influence it that way, or to be influenced that way, if you know what I'm saying. But Antonio, thank you very much for commenting, bro. Fish Pondering asks, virtue signaling and picking battles would be a good video. Very philosophical. So I asked him for a bit of elaboration on what he meant by picking battles, because I've heard that term before, but I didn't know if it was like some sort of psychological term. So I'm just going to go off of what I know picking battles to be. But as far as virtue signaling goes, I had no clue what that was, and I had to actually look that up to see what he was talking about. And basically what I got from virtue signaling was, you know, in my words, overreacting or acting outrageous, I guess you could say, on a certain topic or a certain, you know, idea of something that you may not even believe in so that you look good to other people. And let me say that again because that seemed a little jarbled to me. Being outrageous towards a certain topic or idea or debate, that you might not even believe in personally, just to seem morally higher to everybody else. And the first thing I think of when I hear this is like politicians, people that are running for whatever they're running for. They are they're gonna act like things that don't even affect them, that prior to being a politician they didn't even give two shits about. They're going to act like this matter heavily affects them and that this needs to stop now, and outrageous. They're gonna act outrageous so that everybody watching them goes, wow, that's a good individual. He has high morals. He's gonna do the right thing, and therefore make them want to vote for him. I personally, with what I would know virtue signaling to be, I think that's an awesome example of this virtue signaling thing. Acting out and speaking out on matters that you don't even truly care about just to seem better or like a better person to everybody else. So let me tell you how I feel about that. Oops. So to act in any way in the hopes that somebody else is going to look at you in this way, that's not genuine to begin with. You know what I mean? Even if you're acting in a way to make somebody think you're a bad person, that's not genuine at all. What you're doing is completely puppeteered by an inner intent, an inner motive that you wouldn't talk about in a million years. And that motive usually is, like with people who are virtue signaling, I want all these people to think I'm a good person. That's what they would never say, but is why they're doing what they're doing. They want all these people to think they're a good person. You know what I mean? And I also read that calling somebody out for virtue signaling is also in itself a form of virtue signaling in the psychology scriptures, and the studies of virtue signaling. To call somebody out and to say you're virtue signaling, that is to assume that you are in a position to see where somebody's acting, where they're doing this or they're doing that. You're able to call the shots of what people are doing based off your psychological assumptions. You know what I mean? So I can see that really it's just this idea that you're doing what you're doing to appear better to everybody else, and you're not even really comfortable with it yourself. I think that's something that we should definitely be open about and admit, rather than hiding it and, God forbid, not talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, be open about your true intents and why you're doing what you're doing. And you're gonna see a lot of people turn their heads when you're honest and when you're open about why you're really doing what you're doing, especially with like relationships and shit, or being honest about why you want a job. If they're not down to earth and you're down to earth, they're gonna be like, oh, he's just using us, but they won't be able to see that they're using you. But I think we should be open about why we're acting the way we are. And on the inside, work on, like ourselves, work on not trying to put off this certain vibe, not trying to be somebody, not trying to be this way or that way, or be seen as this. You know what I mean? I feel like any of that would be virtue signaling. You're trying to put yourself off in a certain way so that people see you in that way. And yeah, that's not, in my opinion, that's not genuine, and that just keeps you entrapped. That just keeps you in your cycle of denial of truth, denying what's actually going on, lying about what's actually going on. So yeah, that's virtue signaling. I guess that's what I have to say about virtue signaling. Now on to picking battles. So what I know picking battles to be would be if you sense that something you're about to get engaged with is going to be too intense or challenge you a little more than you wanted it to, you avoid it, and you only engage in arguments or battles or whatever with people that you feel confident that you're smarter than, that you're gonna beat, that you're more right than and they're wrong, you know, that whole deal. That's what I would know picking battles to be. And you can even think of like bullies. When do you see bullies picking on the big muscular strong guy? Little to never, because they know that big muscular strong guy will probably beat their ass. So who do the bullies pick out? The scrawny kids, the mentally challenged kids, the people that won't be able to formulate a reaction back. Some that, you know, aside from just making them feel bad. Those bullies, they know that person they're choosing to go after won't be able to do anything about it. And that's why they go after them. So that's another great example of picking battles. The way I see it, it's obvious. You know, I think of what Ram Dass said so long ago. Everybody has invested interest in the ongoing game. People have invested in these philosophies, in these beliefs, in these opinions, in these moralistic matters that they think are important. They have intense investment in those. Christ, it's what their personality is built upon. So obviously people are going to try and avoid things that challenge their personality, really. If a scientist that was incredibly smart were to come up to me and thoroughly and wholesomely tell me why I'm wrong, and I can't seem to articulate something that I feel brings me out of that pickle, if I even feel like I'm in that situation, I'm gonna want to avoid that confrontation. I'm gonna want to not be a part of that situation where what I think and what I believe in is on the line because of what this other individual believes in and thinks about. You know what I mean? It's a confrontation, and you don't want. We like things to be steady, you know, and we don't like when people shake up our way of thinking. So picking battles is really, to me, obvious. It's obvious that we, be it mindfully or subconsciously, avoid conflict with people we think are going to challenge our ways of thinking. And even if you still think you're smarter than them and, oh, I don't have time for that group of thinking, I don't have time for those people, why not? You know what I mean? Because you think what they believe in is irrelevant. and you think what you believe in is proper, so you're gonna avoid them. You know what I mean? And that in itself is picking battles too, even though you're avoiding a battle maybe to a certain extent with those people. But yeah, it's really to further protect and further nourish your own ego and your own personality and belief systems. And of course, we're going to avoid things that pick and pry at that ego. So yeah, Fish Pondering, thank you for commenting, man. That was a good question. And yeah, I did the best I could without you elaborating further on what you meant by picking battles. So I hope I still answered your question. So thank you for commenting, dude. So Perpetual Reminiscence asks, how do you personally decide which psychedelic and or dosage is right for a specific occasion? And how does that relate to your own intention setting? Assuming here that you would have access to the big three psychedelics. And that's LSD, DMT, and mushrooms, if you didn't already know. So, assuming I have access to LSD, DMT, and mushrooms, straight up, the way I would go about choosing which one to do is which one I feel called to doing. If I feel it's time for me to have a mushroom experience, if I feel it's time for me to revisit LSD or DMT, it's just sort of, it's not like, it's not really egoic, like, I feel like doing this one, or no, I'm also that I feel like doing this one today, you know? It's not really like that. It's more like a calling type feeling of which one I'm gonna do, you know? And it seems beyond the idea of even which one, you know? It's just, I find myself going towards that psychedelic substance, you know what I mean? And how would that relate to my own intention setting? So I think what you're saying there is I have an intention, and based off that intention, I choose which psychedelic I want to do. I don't know if it's necessarily like that. Honestly, if anything, the intention is to do this psychedelic to allow it to do what that psychedelic does to me. That's usually the intention. I don't make intentions of like, I want to revisit where I last was. I want to learn about my past lives. I want to work out this problem I've been having. I mean, maybe I should do those things, but with the way I work with psychedelics, I don't go into the experiences asking a specific thing. I more so would go into it greeting it and sort of saying, you know, here I come, welcome back. I'm gonna bring myself back to you again. You know what I mean? But my intention really goes no further than that. Yeah, I really just feel called to specific psychedelics, and I don't even know if I could tell you why I do psychedelics. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could tell you a concrete reason as to why I got into these. It's just, I feel like I want to do them sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's very personal and very, like, etheric and spiritual and like beyond egoic bullshit, you know. But yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. Oh, and I forgot to mention dosage. I forgot to mention that part in there. Yeah, if I'm really looking to be fully encapsulated in that particular psychedelic, I understand to myself that I need to take a high dose, But if I'm looking to just kind of, I guess you could say maybe in a recreational sense, but I would more so call it just hanging out with, chilling out with that psychedelic and the vibe and body of that psychedelic feeling, I'll take a low dose. I'll take a low dose of the psychedelic. And that's knowing that I'm not going to go into that deep realm of immersion and visual distortion and all that stuff, But yeah, I hope that answers your question, man. I think I went over everything you said there. But yeah, perpetual reminiscence. Thanks so much for commenting, dude. All right, I think this is our last question here. Mobley asks, do you think DMT is a different place and entities are sentient? Or do you think it is all constructed from your own mind? Good question, dude. So I've actually thought and contemplated on this matter for a long time. Ever since I got into psychedelics in general, not even just DMT, but of course DMT is what you're talking about, and to me definitely is what has conveyed that different place and entities vibe, which is what you speak of here. And if it's constructed from our minds. All right. So, no, I don't think DMT is a different place, because I think anywhere you do go and can go ever in your mind, in your body, and on this earth, whatever, when you die, it's all one place. It's all one place, and that place is awareness, existence, consciousness, reality. There aren't separate places, there aren't separate realities, and this is all just my understanding. DMT, I guess you could say, is different, but it is here. DMT is here. DMT is this. I don't think it's detached. I don't think it's somewhere else. I think it's fully here with us right now, as much as when you do it, in a very strange way. But just in the way that I don't think I'm going somewhere. I think reality is becoming different. Reality is changing, and my mind, which you speak of here, my mind is just an aspect of reality. It's something that is in awareness. It's something that can be seen in awareness. And a lot of us think this mind thing is creating reality, is creating all of this. And when you do the drug, it's your mind making it all up. It's all your mind. It's all your mind, The psychologists will tell you, the neuroscientists will tell you, the physicists talk about the material beyond the mind, free of mind. But they understand, as they get into quantum physics, they understand that observation and mind and awareness comes into play. But yeah, this right now is apparently a construction of mind. This is all mind. You know what I mean? If you want to consider senses the mind. Yes, the senses and all this is mind. And what you do when you do DMT, what changes is this. And if this is all mind, it's, I guess what I'm getting at here is that there is no differentiation between your mind creating something and it actually being there. They are one and the same. They are one and the same. You know what I mean? We can say that that my mind is what, and my brain is what, you know, receives the DMT and allows the DMT to be perceived in the way it does because I have my neuro system and all that, you know. We can say that to that extent that my mind is creating all of this. But my mind is creating all of this too. So to me it feels like there's no sort of difference. It does, or at least it's what's the word I'm looking for here? Futile? Is that it? It doesn't necessarily matter. Whether my mind is creating it or not doesn't change the nature of it. It doesn't change the existence and reality of it. Whether this is all your mind or is actually just reality and you're seeing it with your mind, that doesn't change this, you know? All it changes is your perception and your belief and description of what's going on. So yeah, to me, it's not, I wouldn't say it's constructed by my mind. And I would only say that if I were to also say that this entire existence is constructed by my mind. Because this entire existence is where DMT is. And this entire existence is what changes when DMT is ingested. And this entire existence is where DMT is too, you know? It's like inside out of itself type stuff. But yeah, I on one level I can say sure it's constructed by my mind in the level that I ingest it and my body receives and conveys the image of it, you know what I mean? And the experience of it. But like I said a moment ago, that's what my body is doing to this reality all the time, you know? So to me, it's not a point of interest whether is my mind constructing this or does it actually exist? I see that there is no difference, and that's not to say that like delusion doesn't exist, but I guess if you can see that delusion is also a part of mind or a part of reality, you know, in the same way that this DMT realm is, in the same way that all of this is, you know. I hope I'm being clear with what I'm saying. Oh, and also you said there, are entities sentient? To the extent that I am sentient, I feel, yes. I feel they're as free as I am. They are as open and knowing as I am. They are as able to do anything as they please. They exist. They are as I am. They are here in reality, you know, and they're in just a very different, completely profound and alien way, you know, but yeah, I think they exist as what they are, you know, and it's not like I'm making them up or that they don't actually exist or any of that. No, I truly feel that there are DMT entities or beings, you know, or powers or spirits or whatever spin you want to put on it, you know. I definitely feel that there is a sense of sentience and a sense of knowing, you know. But yeah, man, simply put, it's all your mind. This every day, your whole life, everything, it's all mind. So you don't need to worry whether or not it's your mind creating DMT or not, because your mind creates everything, you know? And on a deeper level, your mind is a part of existence. And existence is what everything is in, you know what I mean? But that goes into some crazy philosophy stuff that I could make a whole ass video about. But yeah, Mobley, thank you so much for that comment, dude. I think that was our last one. You're the lucky last commenter. Thank you, bro. All right, guys, I think that's it. I think that's it right there. That was pretty sure the last question. And I just want to say thank you guys again so much. It was really fun. It felt like I was directly speaking with you that asked the questions. And like I said, I hope I got all your questions answered and articulated the best I could, you know. But yeah, this was fun to make. Thank you guys so much. Having this community tab allows me to just make quick little messages, or, you know, I'll probably have a poll up here soon of like something like, you know, what kind of video do you want to see next, or something like that. But yeah, just having this community tab thing is definitely really cool, because if I were to have wanted to make this Q&A prior to the community tab, I would have had to make a little video saying, hey, what's up everybody, can you ask questions down in the comments please? Thank you, I'm gonna make a Q&A. But no, instead of having to do that, I was able to just say, yo, drop your questions in this little post right here. So yeah, it's really cool to have that. And also I can just keep you guys updated on little stuff, or if I'm working on a video, or when it'll be out and stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely neat to have that as a feature on the channel now. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for commenting. The 2 people that have YouTube channels that commented or asked questions, their channels will be linked in the description, and you can go check them out. They make content that's pretty similar and close to the stuff that I work with. But yeah, thank you guys so much. What a cool little thing I got to do here. And I'll probably be doing it again at some point. Somebody just, you know, let me know if you want to see something like this again, and I'll be on it. But thank you guys so much for watching, and one more time, thank you for those who commented. So yeah, I'll see you guys later.